I used to just stop and go, this is genius. There is something that kind of exposes reality in a very subtle way. It's like the Matrix, isn't it?
There was a moment where I realised that I wasn't scared of dying anymore. And then immediately after that, I realised that I had been. A minute after that, I realised that if I wasn't scared of dying, what was there to be scared of? And then there was like a rush of energy, and it's like my whole perspective and perception opened up. And everything was different in a good way. It's like since then I've lived my life more fully and more genuinely and been like more in my life.
What we do is help people harness the transformative power of unexpected moments and bring their creative power to bear on those moments.
I was one of 90 people who traveled to Giggleswick, England for a course offered by the More to Life Foundation. We came from across Europe, the United States, South Africa, Australia, and New Zealand to participate in a unique experiential learning program. I arrived early to document the setup and to learn what motivated the trainers and team members to create this experience for others.
So I realised that there were lots of external factors which it was actually my reaction to them which was causing me the stress. There's nothing about them which was inherently stressing, and I realised that perhaps I could change job or change situation, but those behaviours would follow me.
More to life.
Okay, so the essence of More to Life, if I were to say three things about it, I would say we're a movement of truth tellers. I would say we answer the question, what is life trying to tell you? Because it's speaking to us all the time. And thirdly, we teach people how to unleash their creativity on the unexpected, blindsiding moments that come their way.
More to Life's experiential learning model was developed in the 1980s by Dr. K. Bradford Brown, a clinical psychologist and Episcopal minister who died in 2007. Here is a recording of his voice.
The unattended mind is a trickster. And unbeknownst to us, we have adopted many structures of belief, many expectations and judgments we put on ourselves and others that has created a kind of matrix of pain that impacts and infects us and everyone around us. And then society itself has the societal mind that does largely the same sort of thing. And the next thing we know, we're caught up in a kind of deep, profound sleep. Dead men and women walking, in effect. That same mind, when tended, when trained, when opened to its ultimate possibilities, begins to become something profound, dynamic, and when unfettered from its historical roots and its previous structures, it becomes a means of taking us into heights and depths that have only been described by saints and occasionally by us when we are saintly.
Happy birthday to you.
if you're doing mind and soul work of one type or another, the often described, the words that are often used to describe it are mountaintop experience. And the fact of the matter is, so much of my life I spend in the valley, or at least on the plain, if not the valley. So how do I translate the mountaintop to where I'm living every day?
The work that we teach is rooted in deep psychology, psychological teachings, robust psychological teachings, theological teachings, mystical teachings, and philosophical teachings. I think all those schools have influenced the work that we teach.
When I first did the weekend, I thought, okay, one-on-one, I'm a good therapist, I'm successful at it, but when I saw that I could help a room full of people manage their own well-being instead of one-on-one in a training room, I thought, that's a better use of my time.
Brad, when he studied and read books, he wrote in the margin of all these books, yes, but how, YBH, all over the margins of his books, YBH, YBH, yes, but how do you forgive? You know, yes, but how do you tell the truth if the truth sets you free? Yes, but how does the truth set you free? How do you do that? Yes, but how do you forgive? Yes, but how do you love? Yes, but how do you live in the present? Yes, but how? Yes, but how? There's all these books about this, but how do you do that, for goodness sake? That was his kind of obsession in a way, was, yes, but how? And that's what this toolkit is for. It's a very simple, not necessarily easy, because you need to be up for it. You need to want to work. This is not a comfortable thing. You want to be comfortable, go do something else. This is not the comfort zone. This is living in the stretch zone where we can be fully alive and fully awake and fully enraged and fully joyful and fully loving and fully grief-stricken and fully, where we can have all your sorrow and all your joy and all your love. You can have it all. That's called being a human being.
My name's Vijay, and I've traveled from Johannesburg, South Africa.
Vijay's first experience with More to Life was a weekend session led by Ann McMaster.
There was such sharpness and such clarity. I could see it even on a Friday night. And I didn't go easy. I think I really gave Ann Mac a rough time. But by Sunday night, with all the battle and the struggle, by internal conflict, as well as what was being proposed, which is one, there's no event in your life through which and by which life is not inviting you to be your highest, most noble self. The ones that were painful and unexpected, I mean, how can you say that that is going to be an invitation for me to be my best self? I couldn't see it then. But by Sunday night, I was on a high without any drugs. I mean, it delivered me. It gave my life back, my sense of self back, my purpose back.
There's a forgiveness process we teach. That is the most powerful process for forgiveness I've ever experienced. And it takes 45 minutes and a lot of snot. And then you lay it down. You want to lay it down. You can't wait to lay it down because you're the one walking around in the prison of resentment. No one else is suffering. Whoever attacked you is unharmed by your ill will and your resentment. You're the one walking around in it. Now you can read that in another book, but how do you let go of resentment, really? He created a process that teaches you to do exactly that. And it works. It just works. And I've seen it used by people who've been, profoundly brutalized, traumatized. Seemingly unforgivable things have been done. And they lay it down. And then they become free.
I was so surprised that I held 700 years of resentments against white people. and white men in particular. And that day brought to me that I was hating on those that hated.
Bill, could you help me set? I think we probably want like 20 in a circle here, because they'll be down in a few minutes. We have tools that we work, you know, on our own and in groups and with support partners, but there's nothing like coming together with a community. That's where it happens. That's where the magic happens. Like you started to feel it, Kay. I could see you knew as you were in there.
In one of Brad's little guidelines books, he says, a miracle is nothing more and nothing less than a shift in perception.
I can see that.
So they have that miracle, that shift in perception. And when you do a deep work in one of the processes that people learn, they have that shift in perception. And it does seem like a miracle.
There is natural suffering in life, by the way, and then we add suffering to suffering. And 90% of human suffering is the unnecessary kind of suffering that we add. You have terminal cancer. I'm gonna die. It's game over. I've wasted my life. It's my fault. My child is gonna grow up without a mother. This is a tragedy and a disaster and da-da-da-da-da-da-da. And it's your fault and it's because of how you've lived and blah, 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 blah. Add suffering to suffering. Well, I'm still here. Even the doctors who were telling me I was going to die did not know. But they think they know. Wake up. No, you don't know.
When I did the weekend, I have 5 pages, single space, of resentments. Everything from Italian shoe designers to my mother, my father, all of my brothers and sisters, my former husband, his mother, pages. Mm-hmm. And I thought it was a good thing. And then when I find out what it's really about, it was like, the shame was immense, immense. That was really a huge turning point in my life. Because I hadn't realized the degree to which I had been so judgmental of myself, of you, of life. And if I were in charge, man, I wouldn't have people all messed up and in pain and all that stuff. I would be different.
Sometimes we bring our best to our worst moments in life. Our worst moments bring out the best in us. Or we rise to our destinies when we're brought to our knees. There are many stories of that and examples of that, even famous ones. But I think what More to Life does is it turns that into a practice, even a science. So how do you bring your creative best to any unexpected, unwanted event that comes your way? And we call those moments life shocks.
What is a life shock to you?
A life shock is, they're varying degrees, but every time my heart beats, it's a wake up. So if I could get sensitive to that, but anything, any event, anything, it's not really complicated. People want to overthink it, but it's basically everything that happens. And mostly we don't notice them because they're in alignment with what we think should be happening anyway. So that's not a big deal. But when it's not compatible with our current mindset, either somebody says something really profoundly moving that you weren't expecting, that's a life shock, or they do something that's profoundly disintegrating.
So what that means is a life shock is a collision point between the world as I expect it to be, life as I think it should be, who I think I should be and expect myself to be or you to be, and life as it really is, you as you really are, me as I really am. They're collision points between imagination and reality. That is a life shock. Boom. I expect my day to go like this and it goes like this. I expect to have a life like this and I get a life like this. Hello? Life is not what you expect it to be. You are not in charge of Life Central. That job is taken.
Many years ago, I went to Pakistan for the first time. And I also really thought I was going to go and like liberate all my sisters from the oppression or whatever it was I thought was going on. The life shock moment for me was when one of my cousins said to me, "Is it true in the West you put your old people into homes?" For one, yes, it is true. And then it completely turned around all my beliefs about Western society is in some way superior.
Our job is to facilitate an experience in which life is the teacher. And Brad was very clear about that the teacher he was following was life. And the teacher would be best for us to follow is life.
I guess the question we ask the most is, what is life trying to tell you? Have you ever wondered if life is trying to tell you something? Because it really is trying to tell you something. Life is speaking to us all the time. So this is a program that teaches people how to enter into a relationship with whatever happens to them that ensures they are more themselves because of what happens rather than less. Whatever happens, however brutal, however traumatic, that they learn how to harness these moments to bring them home to themselves.
There's a difference in your life when you're aligned with the essence of who you are, and when you're awake to the essence of the other people, not just the things you want to focus on that you don't like, or the things that you do like that you then think is the whole person, but the whole person. And how do you get in alignment with the bigger picture? I mean, you can't change gravity, and you can't change the things that happen in the world. You got no say. So, how do you get in alignment with those things in a way that brings out the best?
So life shocks are harbingers of reality, of the way it really is, whether we like how it is or not, whether we think it should be that way or not. I was told I had terminal cancer 5 years ago. I was given 4 months to live. I did not have that plan. I should not be diagnosed with terminal cancer when my daughter's 4 years old. That should not be happening to me. That is not what I expected. I was feeling well at the time. I was completely blindsided. But that is what life gave me. That's a big life shock. So, no, I may not live forever. And who says I should? People say, why me? Why not me? Why not me? So it is me. Get it? It's me. I've got a terminal illness. So now, who am I going to be? And what is this teaching me about myself?
I pay attention to the body. And that's part of the thing to pull. It's like one guy who said yes, but his eyes were saying no, and his mouth was saying no. His lips were saying yes, but nothing else in his body was saying yes. So there's a disparity between what he said and how he actually came across. So I look for, is there congruence between what you say, what you do, and how you feel? That's in the body.
It took me time to really open up to what's in this for me and what is life telling me about who I am and what's possible. And a big part of what life was telling me was that I was walking around with 5 decades of grief in my chest that I had never paid any attention to over many, many disappointments, losses, regrets. I was riddled with regret about things I hadn't done that I wished I'd done and things I had done that I wished I hadn't done. And I'd never gone there. Brad never worked with me on grief. I'd never gone into grief. It was like the emotion I'd left on the wayside. And in Chinese medicine, I have lung cancer. Grief lives in the lungs. That's where it lives. So it took me into this whole discovery about grief in my life, what grief really is. I've done a TEDx talk about grief. It was a revelation to me, and this is just one of the things life was telling me about. You're walking around with grief in your chest. Wake up! How much grief are you going to clog in your precious chest before you pay attention to it? Well, it took a tumor in my lung for me to wake up to the grief I was walking around with. That's what I mean by life is trying to tell us stuff, because life is just reality. That's all I mean by life with a capital L, reality with the capital R. It's coming at us and coming at us all the time, helping us notice what we are not seeing about ourselves and about the world that we live in. And in many ways, the past 5 years have been the most brutal and the most creative, remarkable years of my life because of what I learned in this program, because of what I know how to do with life shocks, and how I let them lead me rather than I try and lead life. I let life lead me, and life shocks are like markers.
I walked into my son's bedroom, and in front of me I saw a pile of about 500 used hypodermic syringes. And my initial reaction was just complete shock, horror and numbness. But once I worked through the life shock, the initial gift that I got was really how completely disconnected I was from him and his life. And so now our relationship is based on truth and real, like, honesty, whereas before it was just like a fantasy.
And that's what life shocks do, is they wake me up from my commitment to my past beliefs that may have served me or may not back when I was younger, but do not serve me now because I'm not 3, you know, or 20, or 30, or 40, or 50. So it's like waking me up to the reality of who I am now, the reality of, you know, when I look around, I see all this bitterness and vitriolic crap going on in the world, and I'm thinking, that's not the world I want to live in. Well, guess what? I live in this world. So now I can either make them wrong and be vitriolic and reactive about them being vitriolic and reactive, or I can say, what do I want? How do I want to be in the midst of all this? And where can I bring hope? Where can I bring love? Where can I bring faith? Because, I mean, that's not much in the news. But if you look, you'll see things where people are making advancements right, left, and center that nobody's talking about. You know, and you see acts of bravery. When Hurricane Harvey happened, I will tell you, the world was humane. There were arms reaching out for hands, for arms, no matter the color. I saw a great big burly guy in fatigues holding a little tiny baby, I mean tiny, and a little dog. And there was just nothing but intent on his face and compassion, those two combined.
Freedom lies in 3 things: authenticity, lovability, humanity. And when we are authentic, lovable, as in our ability to love and be loved is present, and we're human, i.e. we know our limits, we know our mortality, we're not trying to control things, then we are free.